here, and today we got a cool kind of sound that I'm working on. Just had to adjust the microphone. We had some recording going on yesterday during a party, so let me get it back into place for my stream. Alright everyone, what's up? Wavy Beats. Wavy Beats. Always wavy. Today we're just going to cook up. We might mix and master. I got to drop a beat every day. You know how that producer grind goes. You're not dropping a beat every day, they forget about you out here. So let's get something going with that. I just really like that sound. I want that like kind of club banger type vibe, but electronic too. So let's see what's up. Might be a little fast here on the tempo, but let's see if we can make it work. We can really do something to make this melody work for us. Alright, let's see what's next. I just want to throw a little effect on there because it's not sounding quite like I want it to. I want it like greasier. trap vibe, so I think we're heading in the right direction, seems like. Make the release a little more on this. Are so loud I can't even hear my claps. So I think we got a pretty good melody. I want like a really kind of sparse melody for this one. Every time I crack my knuckles, I know I'm about to get into these drums. So I just want a kind of a sparse melody. If you hear it without the main chords. Put a little filter on that melody just so it's not so abrasive. Let's look to add some percussion. As can be, so I'm going to normalize it. Just kind of looking for some good percussion sounds, something that's going to give. I kind of like that for this type of song. This sample too, so it's just so quiet. too. Go ahead and just normalize it. Oh, it's already kind of loud. It's just really bassy, but I kind of like it. Percussion, for me, one really important thing I learned about producing is that percussion really keeps the rhythm of a song going, because every song is going to have a clap on the 2 and the 4, or the 3, depending on what tempo you're working in. And percussion is really what's going to set you apart and give you that rhythm, that type of groove that makes people want to dance, that you're just not going to get from just having a clap and a kick. You know, a clap and a kick is a beat, but without percussion, there's no rhythm and there's no real vibe to the song. It's those little sounds too. If you're doing like an R&B or like a tropical song, having like bongos in the background, or on this, like those little electronic sounds, they really help. They kind of sell the idea and the vibe of the song more than just the beat itself. So it's those tiny little things, you know, that all add up to a great beat. And that's also kind of why I like to put them in when before I even really get to the claps and stuff, because I know that the clap and the kick is going to be basically same place every time depending on what type of beat, but that percussion is going to set it apart. For this kick, I like a soft kick on more electronic, you know, sounding beats, because I don't think a really punchy kick works unless you're doing maybe in some house music and certain things, but maybe that's just personal preference too. I just like a softer kick. I like the kick to just reinforce my 808 pattern, or maybe have a couple random kicks in there that bounce off my 808 pattern. But to me, the kick it's important, but it's just not something that I know I'm going to make it stand out in the mix. So I'd rather have a softer kick that just kind of adds to the groove of the 808 eventually. Sorry, I didn't realize, you guys, I wasn't even showing the beat anymore. So let me just walk through the beat real quick for anyone who's just joining. And I just realized I had the face cam on the whole time, so you haven't even been able to see what I'm doing really. What we got is we got Omnisphere. We've got this lead, alternate forces. I just really like the sound of that. It's like a warped type of synth sound. So when you play it, it goes like this. We're in D minor also, by the way. And then we've added this in. same preset on the VST. Then on the third track, we've added in a serum lead that's just really, minimalistic over the top. Here it is with the other stuff. We added some percussion. This sound and this sound. We added this percussive sound on track 5. And then on track 6, we added a clap on the 3. We're in 155 BPM. Excuse me. So when you're at 155 beats per minute, you're going to want to put the clap on the 3 because you're in double time essentially. Just as an example, if you put the clap on the 2 and the 4, it would be so fast paced, the rhythm. It'd be like this. Now, that rhythm's okay if we're going for a really high tempo dance track. We might even do something like that in the mix or in the arrangement. With songs like this, I like to switch it up sometimes. But for me, I'm going for kind of an electronic synth trap type of vibe. So we're not going to do like a high energy dance track with like claps on the 2 and 4 because that will really increase the speed of the rhythm. After that, we added this kick. My kick is pretty sparse, but I just like a pretty sparse kick on this because I want the bass to really stand out. And now we're going to lay down an 808. I'm going to try to find something that's going to go with this song. Ooh, that's really dirty, so maybe that'll work. Kind of like that type of vibe. Gonna be very bouncy. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just making the release longer on that kick sample. That didn't really work, so we'll do it a little more. Could be a little longer even. I'm also changing it to mono. I'm actually going to change it to 1 shot. Maybe that's why it's... No, it just seems to be a very short sample. So maybe I'll pick... I kind of want to go with one of those really dusty 808s that's like distorted, but... Let's see how it sounds. Let's just play around. I don't know if that's the 808 for this song. It's just not sounding quite right to me because I want it to bang when the 808 drops on this song. I want people to be like, holy shit, this speed is crazy, because if I don't think it's crazy, sometimes when you're making a beat you have to be really real with yourself, and if I am listening to a beat and I'm not like, this is fucking crazy, I can't wait to show this to everybody, I can't wait to play this for my family and friends and see them vibing out to it and dancing around, then I don't even want to drop it, honestly. It's just practice at that point. Because if you're not excited about it and you made it, then who else is going to be excited? You know what I'm saying? I like to put those little rolls at the end of mine. For me, this sample is just a little, this 808 sample is a little, it's not giving me that like boom that I want, you know? It sounds cool, but I'm just not 100% sold on it. Let's just try this first one, see what we got here. Trying to add a lot more 808s in here, and I'm actually going to pop my headphones off and mute my mic for a sec, because I want to know if this beat's banging or not on my monitors, because I can really hear the bass better on those. Sounds pretty sweet. I think what I'm going to do is add some hi-hats and maybe a couple like effects, or maybe a riser. Yeah, let's go and add some hi-hats. I really like that 808 sound in there. I think it's kind of like a more hip-hop 808 sound, rather than that really dirty electronic music style bass or 808. Not as distorted, but still distorted, just more filtered or muffled almost. Not as much high end on it. So I think that's just going to work really well. It kind of sets itself apart from the rest of the song, so it stands out, but not in a way that doesn't work. Alright, let's do some hi-hats. I like that really snappy one. Really snappy. Hold on. Cannot just record my hi-hats with no music behind it. So I'm just going to go in and maybe tweak it a little bit. I'm going to take the sample and turn it to mono instead of poly so they don't bleed into each other, and I'm going to make it decay a little faster. Much better. That's just one of those simple things. If a sample's too long and it's just too full, sometimes with a hi-hat especially, I want that really sharp, quick hit. For this, I'm going to copy my sample. I'm going to pitch it down. And then I'm going to do, on the MPC you can do 16 levels, so you pitch one down on one pad, and then as you descend pads and you go up, they get higher and lower. So a really cool trick there if you have an MPC. I really like that. This beat so far. I think all I really want to do is add a couple sound effects almost, and maybe, you know, and then we're just going to roughly mix it, see where to go from there. Almost like that one a little bit. I don't know if we can make that. I don't know if this works, but I'm going to time stretch it to know for sure. let's just warp it to 155 BPMs, same as the song. See, we got sounds cool as is. I think I got everything I want in the song now. We got a couple little effects. So I'm just going to level it, starting with the 808. Make sure all the effects that I want to use on my MPC are on there, and then kind of go from there. Can see here where my program output is. I'm trying to get my 808 to just be negative 10 or 12 really. Normally I do negative 12, but this one I want the 808 to be hitting really hard. So I'm going to try to just get it a little above negative 12 because not as punchy. So the 808 I like to do negative 12, negative 11. Kick I like to keep around negative 9 because I want the kick to stand out. See, it sounds a little quiet there, so we'll just make it come up a little bit. And if you guys are ever wondering what I'm doing when I'm leveling, I'm just, you know, here's the kick and the 808 right here. I'm just leveling the output so that I know exactly what I'm going to be getting once I get into mixing the song. We got the kick peaking around negative 9, so I like that. Now I'm just going to kind of turn down what I feel needs to be turned down. Always remember that it's easier to turn some up a little than it is to try to turn everything down. So I'd rather go in with stuff being a little too quiet than too loud. those two percussive sounds are on the same track. That's why it's getting a little hard to mix them, and I want to have them panned and mixed really well, just because it'd be more of a pain to separate them once I get it all into Ableton. In Serum, it doesn't let you monitor the levels or in neither an Omnisphere on the MPC, so I just try to get them sounding good in relation to the drums. If my drums are all locked at those, negative 12 decibels for the 808, negative 9 for the kick, and negative 16 for the hi-hats, so on and so forth for the clap. With the clap, I kind of just try to do what sounds good. You don't want your percussion or your clap too quiet, because that's all the beat. You want your drums to be at the forefront, at least if you're making hip-hop or trap style beats, even electronic music. The drums are going to be very important to be in the forefront of the beat. Jump sound right before those two hi-hats hit. Yeah, it sounds so much better. I think that gives it like a little bit more movement, a little bit more groove, a little bit more swing, whatever you like to call it. I'm just going to take one last listen before we export and mix the beat fully. So I'm kind of going to just do a live arrangement, see where we're at. that sounds pretty good right now. Um, Only thing we have panned is our percussion on one track, so everything else can be panned in the final mix. Everything is leveled, so when everything is leveled, I would call this a rough mix. It sounds mostly like the beat. There's a couple tracks I want to add some delay and reverb on, and maybe some saturation on the 808, but we can do all that in the final mix. Right now it's leveled, it's just a little quiet because we have everything going into the mix. So once it's leveled, to me it's a good rough mix. This is a good point to either say, I don't really like to mix a beat like this, and unless I'm going to take it all the way, because I don't like to waste my time, and I'd rather be cooking up, making more music. I gotta think of a good title for this beat. We're gonna call it Slick right now, just because that's what popped into my head. So we got Slick at 155 BPMs. We're gonna save the beat. Going to export that as an Ableton project. Let's get Ableton opened up. Let's get to the folder. That I exported for some reason. I guess we'll try to export it again. Kind of annoying, but this beat might have not just saved, I might have just done all that for nothing. Well, not for nothing. Making a beat is always fun. That would be a real pain if it didn't save. Well, it saved, it just didn't export. Been having a few problems exporting from the MPC lately. Not really sure why. It's always been solid. I think what it's just doing is it's going to a folder and say, because the Akai MPC, one downfall of it is that you really can't put a designated folder for your files to export or save to. So I constantly have to drag down the menu, find what folder I save them in. Other than that, I really like the MPC. I think it's a great workstation, especially if you're a beginner. And even if you're not a beginner, I think it's great because once I get a workflow going on the MPC and that muscle memory of tweaking these knobs and, copying and pasting with the buttons and playing and stopping, there's nothing like having a good workflow and good muscle memory on a piece of gear where you just know your way around it really well. Right, let's get our samples in. Do an arrangement. Tired of turning my head so many times. Alright, so we're going to arrange the beat, then we're going to mix it, then we're going to master it, then we're going to put it on YouTube. It's pretty much a day in the life of an internet producer here. You make a beat, cook it up. Sometimes I'll put out what I call a rough mix on my channel for free, and it's just really, something I made on my laptop or just quick with my headphones on the couch. And I like putting stuff like that out because I just kind of level it until it's good. I make it loud, and then what's done is done. But I do like taking my time on beats that are more complex like this because I think it is better to practice as a sound engineer the more you go on. Being a good sound engineer and sound designer is going to help you a lot as a producer. I was like, that wasn't in track one. There we go. Type intro on this. Something that really pulls the listener in right away. Intro is the most important part of a track to me because, secondly, the structure of the beat itself, because the structure keeps the beat interesting, but the intro pulls the listener in and makes them want to keep listening. And your chops and your transitions and structure after that is going to be what really keeps people's ears paying attention to your song. So I'm just kind of chopping up an intro here. You guys are just really seeing, you know, the step-by-step process, front to back, of what it's like to just make a song. So I like to try to keep track of like where my hook, intro, and all that's going to be. Even if I don't, this is not really an artist-friendly song. Let's be honest. There's melodies going on, lots of drums. It's kind of busy, but I just want to make a beat today. So see if we can chop these out, chop the hats out, we'll deaden the bass for 4 bars, and see if we have a nice drop here. I kind of want to drop with that like telephone ring sound effect, so that when the bass comes in, it hits harder. Let's get some of these melodies popping a little more. Little reverb on there to warm that up. Let's put a little delay. A little more. A little more feedback and a little wetter. A little less feedback. And that's really going to fill up that melody, so it's going to fill in these spaces when we're listening to it in just the verse part. I also wanted to throw some reverb on this melody. I just really like the sound of Ableton's reverb better. That's why I don't do it when I'm in the MPC. Kind of want a huge reverb on this one because it's just I want it to be a very far off sound. I like to take out all the percussion and hats and have like a nice breakdown before I get back into the hook. I do like it in the verse, I just don't like it in the hook. I think that's what it is. The breakdown's fine, but I don't like it in the hook. And that's basically my arrangement. Because I want it to have the structure of a song, I'm just going to copy and paste it. Make sure we're all on here. Something doesn't look right about that to me. Yeah, that's just because I want to paste it with that drop in mind. So I'm going to take that. So I really do want to paste it with that drop in mind. And we're going to duplicate it. let's just take a listen from the top, make sure we've got a nice song here. I'm going to copy and paste a little outro here. Outro, some people really trip about what their outro is going to be like, but I just say, keep it simple, fade it out. Don't worry too much about that shit. Here is I'm just putting a little sidechain compression on the kick. If you don't know how to do that in Ableton, all you do is you take a compressor. So first of all, you take the groups that you want to sidechain. I took my main melody, my second melody, my accent melody, and my 808. I grouped those all into a group. On that group, I took the compressor in Ableton and I dragged it and dropped it onto the group. Then once I did that, I hit this little button which opens up an extra menu. I hit sidechain from track 7, so whenever the kick hits on track 7, it will compress every track that's in group 1, and that's how I'll get that pumping to my kick. Now, for like a hip-hop beat, you don't want this too heavy. For this, I'm just using it to get a mild compression effect that lets my kicks really sit nicely in my mix and kind of push ahead of those melodies in case it gets drowned out. Something's not quite right about that drop there, so what I'm going to do is what I'm going to do is I don't want to undo because I just did so much work on getting those levels right. I'm just going to kind of take this part of the song and see where we went wrong. looks like trying to copy that drop isn't going to work for us, so what we need to do is just recreate it. And when I just did that, so what we're going to do is just cut that out. We're going to drag that, and I think we have it there. Let's just make sure the little breakdown in the verse sounds good. Fade out with just the bass fading out. Actually, I want to fade out with that main melody slowly fading out, so we're going to do something like that. I just caught a chill down here in this basement. Alright. So we've arranged the beat, we've leveled everything, we've sidechain compressed the kick, we've done our little chops to keep it interesting. We got a hook right here, we got verse right here. So we got intro, hook, verse, you know, little breakdown before the hook drops to build anticipation. We got a little outro. So now it's just time to throw an EQ on everything. Starting with the main melody. We're going to turn off resonant frequencies, and we're just going to listen for what sounds good. We're missing some of that bass, so we're going to have some muddiness in here. I want to try to keep as much out as possible, because I know the kick and the 808 are going to be resting right here, but I don't want to lose the bassiness of my main melody. So I'm going to try to keep it there, and we might just have to EQ out some harsher frequencies in the master. You know what, I actually like it with the lows cut out, and that's just going to help our track sound cleaner in the overall mix. Now let's pick a couple bad frequencies. This song has a lot of melodies, some weird sound effects, and some dirty drums, so we're going to try to clean it up as much as possible before the master. So I'm hearing some kind of windiness there, kind of like a whoosh, and I know I put a digital on that, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little dip out of this area. I have a feeling some of our other melodies are going to want to be resting right here, so if we're getting the same, you know, we're not really changing the sound. you know, we're keeping the integrity of the sound, as I like to call it. We're keeping the identity of the sound, but we're just leaving a little extra room for some frequencies in the other melodies. One of the very few times you'll see me do that is I'm going to boost that frequency just because I really think that that brings that instrument, it brings a little bit more richness to the instrument. And then again, we have a little, we have kind of some whooshiness there, some windiness. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dip this, and I know that our high-end frequencies are going to want to be hanging out here, and that some of our melodies and our good drum frequencies are going to want to be hanging out here. So I think I'm just going to leave that be. I think it sounds good right now. On to melody number 2. Good. That kind of cleans up some of the area where we wanted that other melody to shine. Alright, now we'll just pick a bad area in here. So like I said, this melody really wants to hang out there, and that other melody, we did a cut there so that it left more room for it. I'm going to bring the Q in low, and I'm just going to take a little dip in the mid there. That way we can keep the integrity of the sound. It still sounds very full, but we'll leave a little room for vocals, or just take out some of those mids so that we're getting just the good part of the sound, since it looked a little busy in the center there. This is our really high-pitched melody. So for this one, there's probably not going to be a lot of lows, so we're really going to want to clean that out. So for that, we really were able to clean up a lot of the lows while still keeping the full sound. For this, we're going to pick any bad frequencies. Alright, so that's a bad frequency right there. So we're going to dip that out, and I'm going to leave a little bit around it, dips too, just because it seems like there's a couple other bad ones in that area. for this one. I'm going to take another little dip there, but increase the Q. That might be a bit too much, so we'll go back to 5 here and we'll look for any more bad frequencies, just because in high-pitched sounds sometimes you'll get some really, really nasty frequencies. I don't really see any there, but I'm just going to do a really light dip just to kind of round out some of those sharp areas. So let's take a listen to all 3 of these melodies together now, and you'll see how they sit with each other much better. Now that we got the melodies EQ'd, let's move on to the 808.
They go crazy, bitch, you back up. In the back of the lamb, got a black truck. In the back of the lamb, got a black truck. Got a black
Yeah, we be going strong. Shorty know I got my money long. High end like luxury, yeah, baby. Drop top, we speeding in that Mercedes. They go crazy, bitch, we back up. In the back of the lamb, got.
Sorry guys, I must, when I type on the number pad, and those are also my hotkeys for OBS, so that's why I keep switching back to that screen. Might have to change that. But I think that happens when I start EQing, because I start typing in numbers. Alright, that is looking cool there. I'm going to give it a little dip. Another really sharp frequency in our 808, so we'll dip that out. And there's another one. I like to do this with the 808 before getting into the mastering phase, just because I really want it to be clean. As clean as possible, or else you're going to be mastering it for forever. And you'll ask yourself, why didn't I mix this better? So this is kind of the most tedious part, as I've said in past streams, is mixing your kick, your 808, and your melodies. After that, with the percussion's normally high end or low end, so you're going to pretty much be able to do a low cut and a high cut and call it a day. And there's another little area, and I'm just going to give it a very small dip there, because it's not really peaking. And then on the 7 here, the 7th band, we're just going to do a little dip at the end, and then bring up the Q. That way we just have a nice, clean, full-sounding 808. Let's give it a listen now without. So, it sounds good. down just a little since we just brought down the 808. And this is what I'm talking about, is you get caught into a trap of lowering volumes and lowering other volumes. Before you know it, everything's too loud or too quiet, or you don't know where to start. So I just try to go down the line, and once my 808's where I'm at and my melodies are where I at, everything else is just kind of falls into place. So let's move on to EQing this perk right here. Sounds good. We're able to clean up a lot of the lows, and now the highs. So once where those grays are peaking, you're really going to want to watch those areas, because that's where the sound is. That's the frequency range it occupies. So you're going to want to, maintain most of that, but if you can get rid of some of where the sound lies in the frequency range, then you can make room for other stuff, and the more room you have for every instrument, it's going to just make your mix sound so much cleaner, and your final product, your final beat, is going to sound much more clean and much more polished. However, if you EQ out too much of the frequency, your beat will sound thin and it won't sound very full. So you got to watch, it's a fine line. But where these peaks happen, right here, that's really where you want to be watching. That's where the sound is. So you want to keep most of that. Alright, there we have a little peak that's kind of sharp, so we'll take that out. And we'll look for the next. And there's another one, and I think that's about it for this sound. So we'll just take out those two harsh peaks. And I've said this before in past streams, but sometimes you can turn something up after you EQ it, because it may be a little quieter, or you might have had it quieter because it was sitting wrong in the mix and it was overpowering other stuff. So when you EQ it, you can now turn it up and bring it into the front of the mix, or a little louder, because it's not, competing with other frequencies and other instruments. So for this one, I gotta listen to alone. So this is a really bassy perk. So I'm not really comfortable having that in the bass range that much, so let's hear if we can EQ it out high. Alright, I think that's a nice sound for it, and once we get rid of that bad frequency I hear in there, it'll sound a lot cleaner. Alright, sounding better already, and now let's listen for resonant frequency. And again, guys, when I click on the blue headphones here, that's listening for resonant frequencies. When it's off, I can see the gray peaks in the EQ. that's one reason I really like this EQ in Ableton, and why I started only EQing my stuff once I got it into Ableton, is because visually I can see where the sound lies, and I can really clean up a track better. Alright, so there's a decent sized peak. I'm just going to leave the Q a little bit wide on that, and Q is just an abbreviation for bandwidth, if you didn't know. And that's how wide or narrow your bandwidth is when you're cutting a frequency. So if you cut it wide, you're not going to just cut that one frequency, you're going to cut others around it. If you cut it very narrow, very high Q, you're going to just cut that frequency. So there's a couple of frequencies in here that just seem to interfere with other percussive sounds I have, so I'm just going to want to clean this up a little extra, because it's kind of just more of a little bassy stab that I wanted to put in there. You know, as far as this last band goes, I'm just going to dip it pretty far. And why don't we do just one more to make sure we have it really clean. See, exactly. There was a little bit of extra in there. I'm going to dip that part way down just because this is already a pretty low perk sound. And I'm going to reduce the volume a little. Just because I don't want that to be the thing that makes us take it back to this mixing phase when we're doing our final master. I'm going to lower that phone ring just a little bit, and I'm going to throw a tiny bit of reverb on the clap to make it a little bit warmer and just sit a little bit nicer, and then we'll EQ the clap. That sounds good to me. I can barely hear it. It's just a hair, it's like a hair under being too much reverb, and that's exactly what you want to just warm something up. You know what? I'm just going to take a little bit of reverb off it. Very tiny difference, but it just warms it up, makes it so much more inviting to the ear when you have the clap like that. Just a little bit warmer, a little bit of reverb. Some songs I like to do a really flat clap, but in songs like this where everything is very spacey, very electronic, I like to have a little reverb on the clap because I think it adds an ambiance. Jump, I just was touching the volume a little bit. That's the thing about mixing, you might hear something as you're going, so that's what takes long, is when you have to stop. And now we're just listening to any bad frequencies in the clap and cutting those out. That way when we get to mastering, we won't have a whole lot to do. peak, so I will just cut that out a tiny bit. And that last little one's not really a peak, but I'm going to just do a little dip in the high end here of the clap, just a little bit, to leave some room for hi-hat frequencies and just to have everything sit nicely. Stuff like that isn't going to affect the sound that much, but it will help the overall mix. Alright, let's do the kick. This one I kind of want to just hear the kick soloed because it's and now let's listen to any resonant frequencies in the kick. There's our first. And I know we have a second right next to it. And you want to do this really a lot with the kick in 808. Take out these resonating frequencies because it can make your kick sound boxy. You know, kind of like you're playing in a closet, or like you're playing in a bathroom, like tinny, too much reverb, and just taking out those little things is going to help the overall sound, and the drums sit much better. And there's another frequency. Something I don't like. And I'm doing the gain reduction as it correlates to how high that peak is. So if I see a little peak like that little one right there, yes, you can cut it, but for that I'm only going to cut it like 1.5 or maybe just over 2 because it's so small. For this last one, I'm just going to cut out a little bit of the high end because the sound's not even there anyway, and it will just sit better. Let's make sure we have a nice full sounding kick. There's it without the EQ. Here's it with the EQ. That last band doesn't really make a difference. We still have a really nice sounding kick in our mix. So regular hi-hats. These should be pretty straightforward. this is exactly what I mean about not EQing out too much. Now this little frequency right here, you would think that it would be fine taking that out. But I personally, to my ears, I think that makes the hi-hat sound a little bit thin. Not that there's a ton of stuff going on with the hi-hat, you know, at 2000 hertz, but it can just add that little sizzle that makes it more full and rich in the song. Alright, that's good for our hi-hats. Let's just see if there's anything bad in there. So there's a little chirping going on right there, so I'm just gonna cut a little bit of that out. And there we have a much cleaner sounding hi-hat. Let's do the same for the pitched hi-hats. For these, you're gonna want to take out a lot of that bass, because the bass in a pitched hi-hat is gonna be there more prevalently. Turn those up a little bit just because they're a percussive element and I want them to stand out in the song. Just going to see if there's any bad frequencies in there. On pitched hi-hats, you can cut the highs a little bit more because you're going to want that low pitch to come out as a percussion sound. Don't cut them too much because it's still a hi-hat, but you can a little bit more. There's a little bad spot in there, but not too bad overall. So we'll just dip it a little bit, check for any more. There's a little something there, so we'll go ahead and cut that out. The next are just these two percussive sounds, so those should be pretty straightforward. The first one's that Mario jump. We did pitch that down a bit, but these are probably the least important to EQ. You really don't have to because they're not constant in the song. Constant in the songs, so they're not going to be drilling into your ears the whole time if they don't sound absolutely perfected or mixed really well. They should still be mixed, don't get me wrong, so I'm doing it right now. They should still be mixed, but like I said, it's not 100% necessary. Sometimes a song just sounds, or a sound just sounds good right off the bat. This is just more for my peace of mind mixing a sound like this, because I know that my final mix is going to be just a little bit cleaner. sounds kind of low. That sounds good. We did a little bit of filtration on that, but I kind of like the sound of that. Spot right there that I don't quite like for the last one. Let's just take a quick look. Alright, I think it's sounding pretty good. I want to take one last listen, make sure we're not clipping anything on the master, and that we have enough headroom to do a little compression in the mastering. So let's just take a quick listen. Alright, so for that little piece right there, I just cut some of the lows out of this second melody because I thought it was interfering with this a bit much and just overpowering the drums, so I cut a few more lows out of it, raised the volume a little, so that way we're just accentuating the highs. And I think I'm actually going to throw a little bit more reverb on that sound because I want it like really spacey. Sounds. I'm going to increase the tempo a little just to kind of hear if I like that. this song is ready to be mastered. So it's 120 bars. You're going to export it as a wave with no dither. I don't know if I explained this in a last stream, but dither is actually sound that they added to 16-bit waveforms in the past to kind of, it's almost like I may be explaining this wrong, but it's almost like a white noise that's added to the very, very low volumes of the track, like the floor, the noise floor of the track, to kind of, it makes like an analog warmth, just a little noise for the purpose of creating like space in the beat or space in the mix, and it's not really necessary at 24 bits. And I've heard that it can interfere with some frequencies in your track, so you want to make sure to check no dither. So we're going to go ahead and export that, and then we're going to get ready to master it. Guys, I'm going to take a quick 2-minute break, and I'll be right back to master this song, and we're going to put it on YouTube as a finished beat and everything. So stay tuned, I'll be right back. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy watching the stream. And if you want to see me make something new or see me cover a certain topic about mixing, mastering, beat making in general, or just talk about music, feel free to email me. My email and social media information is always in the description. And please subscribe to the channel and like the video if you do enjoy it. I appreciate everyone watching. So I'll be right back in just a few minutes.
They go crazy, bitch, you back up. In the back of the lamb, got a black truck. With the back of the lamb, got a black truck. Got a black truck.
Yeah, we be going strong. Shorty know I got my money long. High end like luxury, yeah, baby. Drop top, we speedin' in that Mercedes. They go crazy, bitch, we back up. In the back of the lamb, got a black truck. With a bad bitch on me, she gon' act up. And she, baby, yeah, know I smoke that wax stuff.
And she, baby, yeah, know I smoke that wax stuff.
Private jet G6, jetted up main. Got Louis V all over my body. Gucci, Louis Vuitton when I step in the lobby. Now shorty all up on me. Yeah, I'm heavy all up in the game. I'm spitting that raw shit. Freestyle, I'm shorty, know she want it. Well, I'm a scientist, bitch, I get up on it. But when I be up in the studio, yeah, she dropping stupid low.
Be up in the studio, yeah, she dropping stupid low.
Yeah, shorty want a lot of me. Colors all up in my chain, make you think I hit the motherfucking lottery. I stack raps on the shit like I'm a prodigy. And now the shorty reaching up because she proud of me, yeah. High and I'm on one. I pop 2 pills, bitch, and now I'm gone, son. And what you gon' do? I be with my whole team, yeah, the whole crew. And what we gon' do? Yeah. High end like luxury, baby. She wanna fucking me crazy. And she, baby, I be whipping down the strip in that Mercedes. Shorty wanna come through, she want me having my babies. I'm sick with the flow, man. These diamonds on my wrist whiter than cocaine. I'm with your girl.
Alright everyone, I'm back. I low-key had to take that break just to get this sweater because it's freezing in my basement for some reason. Alright. So we've exported this beat. We're going to open a new live set, and I'm going to pull the beat into the mastering chain, and well, it's not a mastering chain yet, but it will be. So we have our waveform here. It's looking pretty good. One thing I always kind of like to take a peek at when I'm mastering a song is how the dynamic range is. We've got some really small waveforms. We've got some bigger ones. Some of those bass hits are a little louder than I'd like, but we should be able to compress it nevertheless. So we're just gonna throw about 50,000.
They go crazy, but she backed up. In the back of the lamb, got a black truck. With the back of the lamb, got a black truck. Got a black truck.
Yeah.
They go crazy, but she backed up. In the back of the lamb, got a black truck. With the back of the lamb, got a black truck. Got a black truck.
Yeah, we be going strong. Shorty know I got my money long. High end like luxury, yeah, baby. Drop top, we speeding in that Mercedes. They go crazy, bitch, we backed up. In the back of the lamb, got a black truck. That bitch on me, she gon' act up. And she, baby, yeah, know I smoke that wax stuff.
And she, baby, yeah, know I smoke that wax stuff.
Private jet, G6, jetted up main. Got Louis V all over my body. Gucci, Louis Vuitton when I step in the lobby. Now shorty, y'all up on me. Yeah, I'm heavy, y'all up in the game. I'm spitting that raw shit. Freestyle, I'm shorty, know she want it. Well, I'm a
Sorry guys, I know I hit 0. So I was just saying, anything above 50 hertz, I don't really want to EQ too much with a wide Q because I don't want to make our bass in the final master thin. So when we're doing this type of EQ, we're really just narrowing it down so small. We're really just getting 82.5 hertz. You know, obviously maybe a few hertz around that and just cutting it out so that we have a cleaner overall mix. It's looking good so far. Sometimes you'll get to here and you'll already be done with one EQ, so it's looking good. So we've got one that's really ringing right there, so definitely going to want to cut that. And I'm just doing the lows. I'm being pretty, what is the word I'm looking for? I'm choosing very specifically, and I'm really cutting any low that I think could muddy up the final master of this track. So I'm getting really tight in there next to the last one that I cut, just because we really want to have a clean mix on this, especially because this is a bass heavy track and we kind of have a bassy synth bass melody as our main melody of the song and our main chord progression of the song, where we normally have more chords in the mid range. And for that reason, we really want to be pretty discerning. That's the word I was looking for with our bass. We want to cut anything that could contribute any possible muddiness to the track. So for this, we're going to go from high to low, just because we did low to high. So we'll see kind of where we are, and maybe do one more 8-band EQ in the middle. Alright, that's just going to be our reference point. There's not really a whole lot peaking there, but I noticed kind of some fuzziness and a little chirpiness. So we're going to do a very tiny cut there, and that's really high. It's 11.4 kilohertz on the EQ. So we're not cutting anything major. I'm just kind of using that as a reference point for where I hear the first high-end frequencies that could be problematic. Then again here we have another peak that's not sounding too terrible, but I do hear a little chirpiness in it, a little dog whistliness, and that is never a good sound. There's another little peak, and now all these are very small. Like I said, some people wouldn't even cut these. I'm just really trying to get a very clean track, and so where that one perk hits in the song, it's kind of nice because we can do a very small cut on that. Like I said, it's not a big peak either, but when we cut that little percussive sound as it's sitting in the mix, you can see it's peaking even when it's sitting in our finished mix now. So, geez, my face is really bright. So it's sitting in our finished mix, and it's still peaking a little bit above everything else, so I just kind of wanted to cut that out a little bit. And there's where our clap is peaking in the mix. Like I said, these aren't huge peaks, so you don't have to really cut them if you don't want to. I don't think they're going to thin out my final master. I just think they're going to clean it. A lot of times when you are mastering a track like this, it's really this subtractive type of EQ that by taking away those bad frequencies, it allows everything else to come forward and sound much clearer and more crisp. So you might not hear a huge difference, especially if you're listening on phone speakers. If you're listening to monitors, that compression and that limiting at the very end, after cutting out all these bad frequencies, it just adds a nice layer of polish to the track. You know, if you have something like Isotope Ozone 9, which I'm actually looking forward to get myself here soon, that can really add another little layer of crispness and polish to your tracks with their mastering analyzer that they have in the VST. That's something really nice. Looking forward to getting a copy of that myself soon. And that's just going to add a little bit more color to your masters. Now, as you can see for this, we're getting up to 1000 from the high end. We have a tiny peak there. So what I'm going to do now is, because we have more bass frequencies that I think are hindering the cleanliness of our final master here, what I'm going to do is go back working from the bottom up to the high end again. So from the low end to the high end. So we still have a pretty big peak there. And, you know, I don't think I've ever mastered a song where I get all that out of there. But you can do your best. Really, right now, I'm just going through with this final 8-band EQ to say where the big peaks, where the last few problem areas before we put this song out. There's another one. And we got some of these before, but what we're doing with this other EQ is we're kind of finding where those areas overlap and are still clashing with each other and peaking those resonant frequencies in our mix. There's another one. as you can see on this first one, we had already had 5 bands by the time we hit 100, so we're getting better. Sometimes I just keep tapping my space bar to play so I can really see where that's peaking over and over again. There's another little mess. So we came down to about 800 in the last EQ. There is a little peak there. And this might seem like a lot of EQing and cutting to you guys, but this really is what gets my track sounding really crisp and clean, and have a nice mix. Okay, so what we're finding here is just a couple more, and I don't think I'm going to throw another EQ on this unless I see a really big problem area right here. I see a little bit there, but I think otherwise we're doing pretty good here. So what I'm going to do is get to the loudest part of the song. We're going to throw a compressor on it. We're going to set, I've said this before in past streams, but when you're compressing an entire track, you don't want to go very heavy like you'd be compressing a vocal or any sidechain stuff. So I do 250 release, 122 on the attack. Some people do less, some people do more. It's whatever sounds good. This is just what's consistent for me. I'm actually going to do a little more attack and a little less release. Not a lot, but just a tiny bit. Alright, that sounds good. I'm going to turn my headphones down just a little bit because I don't want to hurt my ears when I limit the song. I'm going to throw a limiter on it, so just as a little recap for anyone who's joining in, we're mastering the beat that I just made on this stream. We're compressing till we have a little gain reduction. We put 36, oh no, I'm terrible at math. We put 24 bands of EQ on it, cutting out any resonating or harsh frequencies or just anything that didn't sound quite right. What we're going to do now is we compressed it. We're going to turn the audio release off of the slipper to 23 millisecond. And what we're going to do is we're going to do this until we see about -6. That looks pretty good. I'm really happy with how it sounds. So let's go ahead and tag it. Let me just answer a text real quick. Oh, my buddy just texted me, turn your mic volume up. Thank you. Looks like it's all the way up, so let's get the interface going. Alright, that should be a little better. I think we had it turned down because we were recording a little bit yesterday. There we go. Alright, alright. Maybe a little more. I want to see them levels jumping. Okay, that's much better. Alright, here we go. Alright. My friend just said it sounds good. I appreciate you, dog. I'm going to save this as the mastering chain for this song. That way we can go back to it. I hope we never have to go back to it. And let's put a tag on the beat. I think that's where we want it.
That's wavy.
Alright everyone, we're going to go ahead and put this in my mixed and mastered beats folder. I named it Slick, but I'm going to go ahead and name it Jump, just because of that Mario Jump sample in it. And I just think that's a better name. It sounds better to me, and it's really my choice. So we're going to go ahead and save that as Jump mixed and mastered, and I'm going to put that I tagged the beat. That way we know. So we're going to export this beat, and I'm going to go put it on YouTube. I'm going to stop streaming right now just because I got to find a graphic for it, and I don't really want to waste time on stream doing all that. I did it in my last stream, showed you guys how to do it start to finish, mixing the beat, mastering the beat, putting it on YouTube, and putting a graphic and video with it, as well as speeding it up and slowing it down. If you guys enjoyed the stream, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments if you want to see something in particular. And thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate it.